Welcome to the Beefy Boys Breakdown. I'm Dominic. This is my partner Harrison, man. I'm looking forward to discussing UFC 297. Got kind of a controversial decision here on the main event. And I mean, Twitter's been debating it. Every MMA show I've ever listened to has been debating it. Our turn to debate it, man. And me and Harrison kind of have fall on different sides of the coin here. So we're going to kind of try to make our argument, kind of see how we got there. And try to get to the bottom of this of who really should be our middleweight champion, man. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. I'm good, man. It's a little freezing rain coming down out here in Oklahoma, but other than that, we're doing good. Yeah, as far as the debate goes, I see a lot of people saying, robbery stuff. There's no robbery here. Like this is
No.
almost as close as a fight can get in almost every metric. I do have a few points I think that could go here or there, but I think there's a counterbalance to every point that I'm going to make. So just in the same way the fight went, I think it's just 50-50 all the way down the road for the most point. It's just most part. It's just what do you like more? But that being said, the round scoring I don't even necessarily think is that hard. I mean, I agreed with the judges on pretty much every round except for three where I agreed with one judge and you agree with two judges. But otherwise, we scored 4 out of 5 rounds the same.
Yeah, I think 1 and 5 is pretty, set in stone. I think Sean won 1 and 5, and you could argue those were the two like clearest rounds to score, which I think that is a big reason why people are saying Sean won this fight. It's like if it was one championship scoring, he definitely won the fight. Like winning the fifth round like that, winning the two most like clear, conclusive rounds in a fight is gonna like do you a lot of favors with public perception. Like I said, I end up scoring it for Dricus, but it is kind of a lawyer ball score. Like it is definitely a you score each round separately, and whatever you end up with at the end is your winner. Much more so than I think like who performed better, or there's a lot of like ways you can get into who won a fight. But I just like my scorecard at the end of it had Dricus.
Yeah, and I do want to point out one thing that I think Dricus did that was clearly I just felt like really, really impressive was that left kick he would throw, that left high kick. I mean, he didn't do a question
Yeah.
mark once it landed, but he landed it 4 or 5 times in the fight. I mean, credit to Strickland's chin, but like never saw Dricus landing head kicks like that, and he was doing it a lot. I was very impressed with that. Just as a side note before we
No,
even get into it.
you're right. Like Sean would eat these head kicks to the point where, like watching live, I'd be like, "Oh, that must have not landed." And then you go back and watch the slow
Yeah,
mo, and it's like, "Oh no, it landed." He just somehow ate a head kick from an absolute like monster. Like, yeah, Sean's chin is crazy.
yeah, and Dricus is a monster, that's for sure. I mean, his physique is crazy. He's always talking about that. He's a true 185er. I would say, like, he'd be not small 205. Yeah, he'd be a small 205. He's way too big for welterweight. Like, 85 is the weight. I don't think he makes 80 very comfortably, in other words.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, yeah, you're right. You want to be a small light heavyweight, but with the Alex Pereiras, even the Anthony Smiths and the Johnny Walkers, like those guys are all 6'5" and up. It's yeah, you got to kind of be a freak show. Even Jamal Hill's what 6'4", so like it's like if you wouldn't start on an NBA team with your height, then you probably shouldn't be in light heavyweight. Like if you're not 6'4" and
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because light heavyweight's pretty much a heavyweight that just wants to cut the weight. Heavyweight's just a guy that doesn't want to cut the weight to light heavy.
Yeah,
Essentially, is
but I
how it
mean,
seems. Like the
yeah,
athletic
bro.
heavyweights, at least.
The
Um,
champion John Jones is prime example of that.
yeah, or DC having done it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, plenty of guys. But yeah, back to Dricus and Sean. I thought Strickland opened the fight just how you wanted him to, which was evading Dricus's bombs, getting out of the way of the big overhand outside shots, and landing that jab just over and over down the center. I thought he did a great job of controlling it in round one. And Dricus did get the takedown, but I mean, 16 seconds of control time, and it was like no damage because he was fighting to try to just
Oh
keep him
yeah.
down the whole time. Sean Strickland is hard to keep down, and guys need to watch him. Seriously, like young guys need to watch him. That's how you get up. Like you turn,
Well,
scoot to the fence, stand up on the fence.
and I think he has like a philosophy of takedown defense, and it's like, hey, don't waste your energy even defending it. Just use all that energy that you would have wasted defending it on the get up.
Yeah,
Because I think some guys get caught in no man's land. They use a lot of energy defending the takedown, then they get taken down, and they don't have the requisite energy to get up. So Sean's just like, all right, take me down, like whatever. and I'm going to use that energy to get up once we get there instead of I don't know. That's kind of go
Definitely,
ahead.
definitely, yeah. I would say in collegiate wrestling, especially, like that's what differentiates the top level guys is that ability to chain wrestle. So to wrestle through once you're in a position, it's not over just because you've gotten to the next position. You got to keep going, and a lot of those guys are going one, two positions, and then they get beat to the second, and then they're tired of defending, and they just give up and they just give the position. Well, kind of the same thing here, except you don't lose points in Strickland's defense, and it's like, yeah, if he's in on a deep shot, just use all your energy to get right back up. Don't accept being down.
I'm going to kind of try to paint a broad stroke picture here of what I liked about Sean's performance and what I liked about Dricus's
Yeah,
performance.
because the overarching themes, that's true. It's 25 minutes and 25 minutes, right? The differentiation is just the 5 minute segments, but the whole fight is the same thing over and over.
Well, see, I'll even push back on that. I think Sean's first round, if he rinses and repeats that, he wins like no question. I think, and that's kind of my argument for like overall leaning towards Dricus is when Sean's having success, it looks like round one, or you could argue round five. And I think everybody, even the people that scored it for Sean, like yourself, could argue that those 3 rounds in the middle looked very different. They didn't look like rounds 1 and 5. Like round 5 was kind of just like throw caution to the wind, land some bombs. So I'm gonna even like focus more on round 1. Like the jab, Sean was moving forward in round 1. The body kicks were a huge part of
Yeah,
Sean
the teeps
pulling
were
ahead in round
nice, man.
one.
They were landing like on the actual gut too.
And he abandoned them. He Sean, I mean, for all intents and purposes, after round 1, kind of abandoned the teep kicks, the body kicks. And I thought that was an integral part of him pulling away in round 1. The boxing was still relatively close in round 1. It was the body kicks that really helped Sean keep Dricus off of him and allow him to move forward, which we all know Sean fights best when he moves forward. The Izzy fight, I mean, any fight that's on Sean's highlight is him moving forward. And so, like, rounds 2 through 4, Dricus had him moving backwards, and we've never really seen Sean win a fight off the back foot, really. So it's like these kind of broad stroke optics that like shaped a lot of how I viewed this fight.
I would push back on round 3. Round 3 was 50-50 all the way. No guy like pushed the other guy around. Just because that's the one where you could argue the strike numbers are equal, but Dricus gets 5 kicks checked. So it's like realistically in my head it's 31-21, and then beyond that, Sean is leading the dance in round 3.
Yeah, so this basically comes down to how, at least in my book, I thought rounds 1, 4, and 5 had a clear winner. 1 and 5 being Sean, 4 being Dricus. At least in my notes, I had 2 and 3 being like super close. So I think that's where we need to spend like the bulk of our time, kind of like that's where like the beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I
Um,
thought 2 was Dricus's just based on impactful strikes. I think he might have landed 1 or 2 less in total, but I thought he was landing better, harder shots in 2.
yeah, no, I mean I could not agree more. I mean, literally in my notes it says landed clean and hard, and then damage. That's when he first cut Sean Strickland,
Yeah, the
and
small
that
cut
was
on
the
the right
lesser
eye.
of the 2 cuts. Yeah, that was the smaller cut, but like I score that.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
sorry
Me
about
too.
it.
Me
Like
too.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like that cut is in
And,
that
and,
round.
and then he did get one takedown. It was another one of these nothing takedowns. Luke Thomas, I thought, described these takedowns like in a way kind of similar to how I viewed them. He was about how in a vacuum, you're right, the takedown is really nothing more than a positional change, and it wasn't really used to control. It wasn't really used to attempt submissions or get damage off. However, I did find it to be kind of like a helpful tiebreaker. In these razor coin flip rounds where the striking really is kind of close, one guy's landing a little harder, one guy's winning the CompuBox numbers. You know, it really is kind of a quality versus quantity, pretty toss up as far as the striking goes. And I do think that like it can be kind of just tilt the scales ever so slightly.
Yeah, but then I have to like push back on that logic and ask you like, do you think that Raquel Pennington gets credit for being in like on standing clinch control on the fence? Because it's the same effect.
I would say like I said, man, it's not enough to like if you were losing that round, it's not enough to win you the round. But if it's literally a coin flip, I think it's something to like factor in as far as even if it's just factored in as like activity or forward pressure or like even if you're not factoring in, obviously you're not factoring in damage, obviously not a ton of control time. Even if it's something as simple as even if you consider it octagon control or pace or just offensive output, I think it factors in. Like I said, there's like it's like a tertiary
Yeah,
tiebreaker.
perfect. Yeah, so I think it does fall under the ring generalship, which is the tertiary measure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say
I
if you're
think
the guy
that's
shooting
fair.
the takedown and you're the one getting it, clearly you're doing more than the guy that's having to defend it. I think that's just fair. That's
Yeah,
generalship. Now, as far as a fight
that's
goes,
kind of how I'm seeing it.
yeah, there's no progressive damage that does, and if anything, I don't know about gas tanks, but for some guys, it's almost not as smart to shoot those takedowns whenever they're giving it everything they have. Now, that's not Dricus's case here, obviously, but I'm just saying for some of those guys, like, God, we saw it in the fight card. I can't remember who just gassed out by the third. It was whoever. We'll get to it obviously later, but in the Magni Malott fight, you see a guy just completely gas in round 3, and it's like, how did that happen? And it's him trying to do too much in the grappling. But that's not the case here. I'm just saying that can be the thing.
No, no, totally, bro. So yeah, we both scored round 2 for Dricus. Granted, I had it very close, which is interesting because I like Dricus more, but you had that one round more definitively for Dricus.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like I wanted to score rounds for Sean. I like Sean more than Dricus, but to be fair, like I thought Dricus won that round. Like as close as it was, I thought he won the fight. You know what I mean in that round.
Yeah, barely, and I think you won it barely. Now round 3, I mean, this is really the meat and taters of the fucking debate here because, I mean, that's everybody that's debating this fight is really only debating round 3. They're not even debating the whole fight. Like
Even
that's why, like,
even
how you let
the
off saying that like it wasn't a robbery. Robbery is when multiple rounds are scored wrong. Like you debating a 50-50 coin flip round, like doesn't the end result is not robbery. So yeah, man, round 3 is really what it boils down to. I'll let you take the floor, man. You obviously scored it for Sean. Like, what in your opinion, and you're on your scorecard, like what led you to the conclusion that Sean won round 3?
yeah, so I will say this: after round 2, Sean's corner, Nixick did a great job. Every time Sean looked bad in a round, he would tell him like, "You're fucking up. Like that was not the kind of round you want to see." Even though the rounds were super close, he was right, like dead on in almost every single round. That being said, I did agree with Nixick. He came back after round 3 and felt like Sean did enough to maybe take it. I thought that was kind of the case with it. It's a 50-50 round, 100%. Now that all being said, what do I like about it, right? I thought that Sean didn't stay on his back foot as much because in round 2 he did, and Nixick pointed out to him, hey, you gotta step in with the jab. It's the first round we saw the double jab come alive, and he started to throw that, which was landing. The first time he threw it, it rocked Dricus' face. And then also back to my earlier point of the kicks, there were 3 or 4 like hard leg kicks that Dricus threw that checked all 4 of them. So it's
Oh,
like,
Sean did a fantastic job of checking kicks. I mean, bell to bell. I mean, Sean was checking leg kicks. He did it against Izzy too. He
yeah,
may be the best goddamn leg checker in the whole promotion.
it's
Like he really
amazing.
might. Him,
Like it's so
him and Sean
fluid.
O'Malley. If your name's Sean with the SCAN, you can check a kick.
Well, and I also think like his training style is just sparring all the time, right? So he's so used to seeing and just that body fluidity of opening the hip, checking the kick. Just it's so fluid for him. And so all that considered, I kind of liked Strickland's round more. I thought that he got off better damage in that round, per se.
Yeah, fair. I mean, my notes here for Dricus, and I did score round 3 to Dricus, like barely, like close round. I did find, and I mean, maybe I need to rewatch it. I thought Dricus was moving forward. I thought Dricus had good pressure in that round. Now was it 5 minutes of moving forward? No, Sean. It was a little bit of back and forth, but I thought overarching, I thought Dricus had Sean on the back foot in round 3. And then also, Dricus started doing more of his like signature blitzes. I mean, I remember whenever the first time we ever broke down a Dricus fight. Dricus is one of these fighters. His whole career has been in the Beefy Boys era. So we have like we've been breaking down Dricus since he was on the prelims, and I remember, I mean, the first thing we noticed about Dricus, we're like, this
Straight
guy's
line
swole as
blitz.
fuck, and he does these straight line blitzes.
Yeah.
And so he kind of went back to his bread and butter, and like sometimes the third, fourth, fifth punch would land pretty stiff on those blitzes. And then he landed some of those hard body kicks. He would switch to southpaw and throw the left body kick, and it was like pretty impactful. I like that. That being said, I thought Sean, like you said, the double jab. I feel like Sean even that round 3 is when he finally started to throw the right hand.
Yes, it's when he uncorks it. That's also when Dricus's left eye starts to swell closed, or we start to see it like happening.
And this is also the first round of the fight where Dricus doesn't get a takedown.
I'm saying, like, as far as visible damage, like if the cut in two was enough to tip 2 to Dricus, I feel like the massive swelling on Dricus's eye in round 3 would tip 3 to Sean, if that was the logic.
Well, and this is going to be kind of like a philosophical, subjective debate that we've been debating this in the group text for like 12, 18 hours now. Just like, what is your definition of damage? Because like, punch that causes a cut as opposed to the cumulative damage of a lot of jabs causing swelling and the swelling kind of progressing as the fight goes on really is beauty in the eye of the beholder there. I mean, they both obviously suck. They're both obviously damaged. In my opinion, it's super subjective. Super subjective. Just like
yeah, and I also Sean Strickland's been going on about how a headbutt opened the big cut on his eye in the 4th round. I don't know about that. It looked like a punch to me.
Me too.
So I'm not going to accept the headbutt stuff. That's why I give the 4th to Dricus for sure. But that being said, like you said, the 3rd round, the big one to debate here. So what I had asked my girlfriend, who just outside of everything, I asked her, like, would you rather get cut or hit so many times that you like your face swells up, like in that locality? And she was like, well, the cut's gonna suck, but like my face covered in blood versus my whole facial tissue being swollen, like one's a lot worse to deal with for like amount of time after, right? Because she was like, yeah, with the cut, like they'll just put a Band-Aid over it, like whatever, I'm good to go. She said, when my face is swollen and my eyes closed, like I gotta wait for that to go down. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, no, man, it is. Also, another. I don't always love Luke Thomas's breakdowns, but I thought he did a pretty good job of this one. Like, it really is like quantitative versus qualitative. This whole fight, like, all the numbers point to Sean.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It is. It's quality versus quantity. Absolutely. Like, it's the best way to describe it.
But Dricus is jacked and throws nukes, so it really is subjective. Like when Dricus landed way more power shots, way more, haymakers, if you will, and Sean was steady as she goes with the jab, double jab, pump, 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 pepper, 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 accuracy. And I mean, it really, like I said, I don't think that like anybody got robbed. As we were waiting for the scorecards, I was literally telling myself, like, I'm not dying on any hills. Like, either guy could have won this.
I have in my notes that this is going to be a split decision. Like, I can't see this being agreed upon by the judges because all the rounds are close. Like, as far as us having this and all the judges having the same 1, 2, 4, and 5, pretty crazy because they're close. No lie. I mean, is pretty close, pretty clear winners here and there, like 1 and 5 and 4. But 2 and 3 are so close, and 3 is like the pure definition coin toss.
Well, and Sean, man, when he's fighting defensive like this, like when he fought Izzy, he had foot on the gas. When Sean this performance from Sean actually reminded me more of the Cannonier performance, where it was like very defensively sound, very close, very competitive, but just like Sean's not going to pull away and like stamp rounds with that style. You know what I mean? You're not going to get a knockdown. You're not going to get a takedown. You're not going to get a sub attempt. So you're really just like counting on like the judges being able to appreciate like the nuances of like their shoulder rolls and all that. You know what I mean?
You know what his kryptonite might be now that I think about it? It might be guys that have big power because he won't open up. I mean, you see it with now Dricus, Cannonier, Poeton. The guys that beat Strickland are all guys that possess the ability to finish him, And Poton's the only one that actually did it. But what I'm saying with that is that like you can see he almost puts the shell on more, and it draws away from his offense. Whenever his defense really does start with his offense.
Yeah, like when Sean's fighting defensive, man, he's not going to get a finish, and it's going to be hard for him to win decision. It was a split decision loss. This was a split decision loss. I just think his style lends itself to kind of split decision losses, like in a weird way, like because there's no explanation points hardly. You know what I mean? Like when he fights like this, like when he fought Abus and when he fought Izzy, he was coming forward. He was getting knockdowns. It was so much more offensive. And Styles Styles. It's like Izzy's a kind of a counter puncher. He's going to allow you to kind of walk forward, and then Abus, I think he's a striker, and I think there was just kind of a levels gap there. So Sean didn't necessarily feel the threat.
Well,
he kind of just
Abus is also microwave. Heats up super fast, but is done quick as hell. Like Abus is 5 minutes of fury, and then he's done.
Like if you think about it, Cannonier and Dricus, I mean, similar body types, both possess power, both will wrestle you some. Like they're not that different of fighters. They look differently. Like Dricus has this kind of herky, like they move differently, I should say, but similar athletes.
To be fair, it's almost like Paulo Costa and Vittori are like the poor man's versions of Cannonier and Dricus. Like they all do, all four of those guys do pretty much the same damn things. Dricus just does all of them at the highest level.
Yeah, big guys, strong guys, tough guys. They all have crazy chins. I mean,
high output, good cardio, wrestle, strike, a mixture of everything. Not like not an ace of spades or anything, but a jack of all trades. That being said, I did want to talk Fallout with this because. Here's kind of how I see it. Right, is Strickland for me, and I think everyone that loves Sean Strickland. He doesn't need to be the champion for you to love him. He's kind of a Nate Diaz kind of a guy. Like, you don't love him because he's champ. You love him because of everything he says outside of being the champ. Being the champ just gave him the spotlight.
And he's a star, man. I mean, unless he loses like 3 in a row, he won't be below third on a pay-per-view like ever again in his career. Like,
right. Yeah, 100%.
Like, imagine how stacked the pay-per-view card would be. Like, us as fans, if Sean's the third fight, we'd be like, oh, we got a banger card.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, my God. So then it leads me to think about, well, as far as styles go, well, that leaves us with the story of Dricus calling out Izzy and telling him, find me at UFC 300. Love that story. Easy sell. I don't know if Izzy's coming back for it. I don't know what he's up to. So let's just say that that's not going to happen. Next guy up, probably
Hamza. I feel like that's a big logical jump, though, because in a weird way, I feel like that's most likely to happen. If you ask me, if I had to like bet like a futures, and if I had to bet like a futures of like I mean, my money would be on Izzy to be next. Honestly, like promotion wise, storyline wise, just everything about it. I mean,
okay. So, but my point is that Izzy is next if he says he's coming back to fighting. So outside of that,
I think he already has. Izzy already said that like he was trolling with the 7-year shit. Like all signs point that like Izzy will be back. Now, will it be by UFC 300? That's a big question mark. But Izzy's coming back. Izzy. He never left the USADA pool. He's good.
No, 100%. But what I'm saying is UFC 300 is end of April. Dricus could be in shape and ready to go for that. Now you'd have to announce it by the next 3 weeks, which is no problem. But what I'm saying is if you don't announce it by then, and Izzy says that's too soon, do you still try to match Dricus up with Hamzat for 300, or do you try to do something else entirely? Because they need a main event for 300. They're still lacking a big main event.
Man, honestly, bro, and I guess maybe I'm in the minority here. Like, I say you run it back. I'm actually kind of
and that's
shocked.
On the table. It's on the table.
Like, I'm kind of shocked that that's not getting more talk. Like, when's the last time we had a championship fight, split decision, this close, controversial? Like, Islam and Volk ran it back. Like, I mean, this reminds me of Islam Volk. The last time we were, like, having debates, the Sunday after a title fight was Islam Volk. I mean, it's very, very similar in a lot of ways. I mean, it's not champ, but I saw one of those. I forget if it's MMA fighting and one of these dirt sheets, as Chael calls them. They put out like this little graphic of like, who do you want next? And it had Izzy, it had Hamza, and it had Sean. Kind of a cop out answer. Kind of can't go wrong. I'll say Hamza the least amount of sense, but also works. Like, is anybody going to say like, oh, I don't want to see that fight, or I'm not interested in that fight? Of course not. We're all interested in that fight. We all want to see that fight. I actually personally, if Sean doesn't get the rematch, I would love to see Sean Hamzat next. That makes a lot of sense. Everybody's saying Hamzat needs to be an actual middleweight. Strickland Hamzat, I mean, that's like one of those arena fight night main events, probably 5 rounds. I don't think Hamzat's ever gone 5 rounds.
I could see them being the co-main on a pay-per-view, but with a one belt pay-per-view.
No, totally. And like we've debated that a million times of like, what I guess it all depends if they want him to go 5 rounds or not. But I think they can. I guess I'm trying to paint that as a compliment. Like I think Sean and Hamzat could sell out an arena. I think they could. Yeah. I think they could put 20,000 ass in seats. So I guess I mean it as a compliment. Some people view like fight night as kind of a backhanded compliment, but if I'm saying you can put 18,000 asses in seats, I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah, I just think for the UFC, the way they view Hamzat is he's pay-per-view, like because he sells bigger dollars than just seats. Like he sells views.
Fair. I mean, that hasn't really been tested yet, has it? I mean,
yes and no. The UFC knows what they're doing, like the way they've built him, the way they market him, everything they put into him. They get out what they put in, that's for sure.
No, fair.
All things considered, though, like put on your UFC cap real fast, and let's just say because you need UFC 300 main event, right? Exactly. Out of the available belts, I mean, who would you put up there? Yeah, I will say too. I'm saying all this. Dana did leak behind the scenes on Friday that this week he'll be announcing Leon versus Colby at 300. But I don't love that
Leon versus Bilal.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Leon versus Bilal.
No, you're right, man. UFC 300 main event vibes. It's such a cop out. I mean, they're all huge fights. I mean, Izzy du Plessis, big, right? I mean, Izzy like
I think
outside
that's
of Conor,
the
biggest draw.
I think that's the one.
Outside of Conor, biggest draw, like that's like fact, like not debatable. Hamzat, you just said huge draw. I mean, if you want to put Hamzat in a pay-per-view main card, here's your chance. Main event. I mean, here's your chance.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying for the UFC is like, I think they're gonna try everything they can to get Izzy Dricus right in the next 3 weeks. And then if you can't, like, do you just say fuck it for 300 and you just focus on that only and you make Hamzat Strickland instead and don't even worry about the 3-ring circus and you just try to make it Izzy Dricus? Because honestly, like you just said, Izzy Dricus is, I want to see it so bad. Those guys do not like each other, and it's for continental differences, even though they're born on the same continent.
Well, also, man, I think if we're talking like meritocracy, rematch, it makes like the most sense. Like,
I'm with you. I'm just saying, I'm looking at it purely as a business perspective, UFC.
But I think that's big business. Like there's all the sound bites. We just saw it. It's fresh in our heads. I think more people on Twitter are saying Sean won. Sean just got, you talk about nations behind you. Sean just got Canada on his side. Like he did, but Canada's fully on board.
Here's where I think the UFC is going to try to have its cake and eat it too. Is like you just said earlier, you do Strickland Hamzat and you do Captain America versus the Russian assassin. You know what I mean? Like that story sells already.
That works.
And then Izzy Dricus, already a written story that they were wanting to do whenever Sean showed up and took the belt to begin with. So. And then the winners fight each other. Like I just think, and that's having their cake and eating it too, and everything working out perfectly. Does that always happen? Almost never.
And you know who's going to be the skunk at the garden party here and he's irrelevant, but the resume there, Cannonier, man, Cannonier's sitting right there. Like, was he like 3-4?
I know.
I mean, I feel like he's 1,000% not going to be on a pay per view, but like, he
I know
needs
what you
to
do.
fight somebody.
I know what you do. It's
You feed him to Hamzat?
No. Cannonier Brendan Allen.
Cannonier Allen or Bo Nichols, something like that.
Because Allen's on a crazy hot streak right now, and he's like the hot name in the division. So, all right, let's give him the top 5 shot. Like, give him Cannonier.
Just Apex vibes all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. That's a UFC fight night.
But Apex fight night though.
Yeah. That's not like you're not going to the St. Louis and selling out an arena. Hell no. You're 2,000 seats, my boy. 2,000, not 20.
For sure, man. But I mean, we can talk about middleweight. I mean, middleweight. That's the surprise I didn't see coming in 2024. In 2022 and 2023 was all about bantamweights and lightweights. I think 2024 is middleweight season, baby. I mean, it's the most interesting division by far.
I don't know. Welterweight and lightweight are pretty interesting to me as well, I think.
Bro, give me middle, bro, because we got Hamzat, we got Brendan Allen, we got Bo Nickel, there's so many middleweights. There's a few guys I didn't even mention. Who else? Ikram, who just pulled out. Unfortunately, Ikram was supposed to fight not Muniz, Hernandez. He pulled out. So I think Ikram's a factor by the end of the year. By like November, we could be sitting here talking about Ikram. He gets like 2 finishes over ranked opponents back to back.
But I would say in welterweight too, you have names like Fakhretdinov, you have JDM, you have Ian Gary, you have Sean Brady, you have Rachmanov, you have Bilal. I think there's a lot of fun in both those divisions.
But I guess I just have my hierarchy of welterweight. Like, to me, I think Shavkat's the best welterweight. Like with middleweight, I can honestly tell you, even after just watching the belt be fought for, I have no clue who's the best middleweight on earth. I have no clue. It could be easy. It could be.
Just hypothetical here. How do you see a fight between Fakhretdinov and Rachmanov going?
Oh, Shavkat would outstrike Renat. Renat's striking got exposed badly, man. Renat's striking is ass, and I'm a Renat like kind of ball washer. I think the grappling exchanges would be like competitive, but that's why I'm saying it would end up being a striking match. And Shavkat's taller, more fluid, just more technical. I mean, Shavkat would piece up Renat.
I'm gonna agree with you. Actually, you sold me just because when you think about outside the top 15 at middleweight, there's names that are still like Aliskerov, obviously. But then Bo Nickel, I think, is a top 5 guy eventually. So yeah, you got Aliskerov, a top 10 guy. Yeah, I mean, lurking, and honestly, that's great because I hate Chris Curtis. Let's keep the breakdowns pushing so we can get there. But we do have another title fight.
Well,
which also, dog, this fight, holy shit, bad. Like, holy shit, bad.
I thought Green Day was going to release a new single called "Wake Me Up When the Co-Main Ends."
They could.
I legitimately was getting tired. Everybody's cracking those jokes. It was around 10:30 p.m. West Coast time. I was getting tired. This fight, bro. I've been eating pizza and drinking beer, bro. This fight legitimately almost put me to sleep, man. We got Myra, or for whatever reason they kept saying Maida, adding an extra syllable. Bueno Silva, ranked 3 coming into this one, minus 160 favorite, taking on Raquel Pennington, plus 135. Vacant title since the Lioness retired. And nobody was hyped for this fight. I kind of tried to trick myself into getting hyped for it. Because I didn't want to see this division move on.
Oh, this is the death knell of a division right now, bro. Like, this fight shows you why this division sucks without Nunes. Kind of sucked with her, but made us respect that it should exist because she existed. None of these women justify there being this division.
And I thought our only chance at excitement, and I mean, it kind of showed this way, our only chance at any excitement was Bueno Silva getting a ninja choke, which she went for a couple of them to her credit, but but we all knew that if Pennington won this fight, I mean, Pennington when she wins, Pennington fights are snoozy. Everybody knows it.
Holy
She's on
shit,
a
are they
5-fight
snoozy.
win streak, and they're all decisions. I think 2 or 3 of them were split decisions. Yeah, Pennington does not get the juices flowing, man.
She got a sub over Macy Chiasson.
Who I was never high on. The UFC kept trying to like push us Chase on as like somebody we should give a fuck about. It just never passed the smell test for me.
Bro, since her KO loss to Nunes in 2018, she's fought only decisions minus that one submission victory.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
no,
10,
for sure.
10 fights, 9 decisions, 2 splits. Both the splits are wins. Aldana and Ketlin Vieira.
And both of those are aging well. I mean, Raquel Pennington is good at sport of MMA. So, you know, we kind of have these philosophical debates of like the sport versus the fight, and some guys are martial artists and some guys are fighters.
Yes.
Like Raquel Pennington competes and she does the sport of MMA very well, but she doesn't get nasty. She doesn't go for the finish. It almost feels like you're watching like a point Muay Thai, or you know what I mean? Like
it feels like a point.
An amateur fight.
Point fighting MMA is what it looks and feels like.
Yeah.
Like it feels like Stephen Thompson, but without the ability to finish anyone.
Without the ability to throw sick ass kicks. No, for sure, man. I mean, I assume, did you score round 1 for Buena Silva?
I did. Yeah, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe unsurprisingly. Like she was actually doing what she needed to do to win the fight. Was getting in the clinch, landing the good knees to the body. Pennington also would fire off 4 or 5 standing shots and then get in close. Like Pennington was shooting herself in the foot all of round 1, which was proven by rounds 2 through 5, where her coaches like pretty much like were like, look at me after round 1. They're like, trust your fucking hands. Like this girl cannot strike. She sucks at striking. Quit engaging all this bullshit. Just strike her. Like just piece her up. Which that's exactly what she did. Although, bro, I'm saying Raquel Pennington chose boring in this fight. There was a time in round 2 she started going for a takedown in her corner, and her corner's screaming, let her go. We don't need to do this. What are you doing? And she's still trying to get the takedown. She showed me that she's just a robot in there. Like, she just goes position to position, isn't listening to her corner, has like a set camp, and just fights whatever her camp was. I can't stand Raquel Pennington. She is everything that is wrong with like when you have
the women's bantamweight division.
Yeah, essentially, man, because this is like a husk of what would be a champion. This is essentially just a good fighter in any other division. Like any other division. Literally any women's or men's. This level of fighter is maybe top 15. Maybe.
No, 1,000%. Like, yeah, she's definitely not top 5 in flyweight, 1,000%, or probably strawweight, like a fighter of the equivalent skill set. No, I agree, man. And that's what, like, this fight just didn't pass the smell test. Like, it didn't feel like I was watching a UFC title fight, like maybe an LFA title fight, or like maybe some kind of Fugaze Apex fight or something. But like, yeah, as far as co-main pay-per-view title fight, just did not check those boxes. I mean, I gave Pennington 2 through 5. I don't think we necessarily have to go through it.
Did you give any 10-8s? One judge did. I certainly did not.
I didn't even like debate it. Like when I saw that scorecard, what round even was it?
5.
Was it,
I had to look it up too. It was round 5, and that's only because you know what? Well, I don't know, maybe that, but I was gonna say round 5 is the one where Buena Silva's just laying on her back, hands on her head for 30 seconds, just looking defeated as shit. Like I think that was an optic 10-8. That wasn't like a performance 10-8.
No. Hell, I liked Pennington's round 2 more than I liked. I thought
I thought in 2 she was 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this fight in lockstep. Now, why is that? Because there was nothing to see here. This fight sucked, man. Like, and honestly, Dana was getting blown up on MMA Twitter, like blown up about this fight because the card, really, the early prelims were the highlight of this whole card, which is the worst possible thing you could say about a card. In general view, you know what I'm saying? So, also, I wonder if anyone's told Raquel Pennington she looks just like a female Frankie Edgar.
That's hilarious.
She does. Bro. She got that like boxy body, like her hips are like as wide as her shoulders.
Well, so this is what we got to talk about now. Raquel Pennington wins the unanimous decision. Snoozy fight.
16-9 record.
It's like she already has the split decision win over Aldana. They could do that fight. Aldana is fresh in our minds. Like I think Aldana's high on MMA fans. Like I personally, probably even after this fight, even
Bro,
though Raquel beat her, I have Aldana as like the number one women's bantamweight in my personal power rankings based off her performance against Vieira.
you
Like I'll take
know,
Aldana's
you already know who she's fighting.
Shevchenko, right?
Oh, Pena.
On opinion. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I just like
The
I
UFC
mean that doesn't
loves that horrible. Dude, honestly, think about this. Pena Pennington for that belt. Who's gonna fucking watch? Who?
I think they're better off. Granted, it's not like Shevchenko's some kind of draw. I
Oh,
think they're better
Shevchenko
off.
should go up and dominate that division. That's what I texted you. Was that
Yeah.
Shevchenko runs through these girls over and over and over and over to end her career? Like, doesn't have to worry about
I
cutting the
think
weight. Easy move.
I think I think there's multiple flyweights that could come snatch that belt. I mean, obviously
You're telling me
Grasso is
Tyler
going to be
Santos?
champ. Well, Tyler
I
Santos is
know,
no
I know,
longer
I know,
signed,
I know,
but
but
no,
I'm
I
just
feel
saying.
you. And she's a
Might not.
big girl. She could totally like
She's the one I
perform at
think,
the
like
weight class.
size wise, would make sense to be a bantamweight. Manon Fiore's pretty big as well.
Well, I was about to say, man,
Or dude,
because Fiora,
Caitlin Chikagian, quit being a gatekeeper and come be a champion.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily get my juices flowing either. But like I think either Shevchenko or but like so Fioro and Blanchfield are fighting soon. I don't know exactly when. The winner of that one, obviously number one contender, right? But the loser, if I'm the loser of that fight, I
Come
take my
up.
ass to bantamweight.
Yeah.
I'll be top two, top three. Maybe win one fight, maybe go straight into a title fight. Like either way, bro, I think the loser of Fioro Blanchfield is better than Pennington. Call me a hater if you want.
Well, bro, it's like Pennington has a decision win over Buena Silva dominantly. Split. There's number 3. Split decision over number 4. Split decision over number 5. A loss to number 6 3 years ago in Holly Holm. Almost 4 now. And that's probably, trajectories of career. Holly Holm obviously down now. Very much older. So that wouldn't be a good one to run back. Pena's the girl she hasn't fought. It's the thing that makes sense. Dude, that is the worst. That's going to be on a pay-per-view because it's a belt. That is the worst fucking co-main I've ever heard of in my life, dude.
But besides this one, hell, Juliana's at least better on the mic. Like she'll at least give us
But I hate her
she'll
more.
give us something. I feel you, but like that's an emotion. You know
Yeah.
what they say, like indifference is worse than hatred or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
yeah.
Like
I just legitimately
Silva,
didn't care about this matchup. You're right. At least that
yeah,
one I hate
exactly.
both girls, and I'm like, I just hope it's violent and one of you gets hurt.
You'll be rooting against somebody, which means you have a rooting interest, which means you care. No, I feel like Pena. Say what you want about her, infinitely more entertaining and just like interesting than Buena Silva. I mean, it's just facts. I mean, that fight would suck though. But man, let's keep it pushing to a shocker here. Well, shocker to most people. We'll get to it, man. We got in our featured match. We got Neil Magny plus 295 dog, getting up there at 36 years of age, holding on to that gatekeeper number 13 spot, taking on proper Mike Malott, the Canuck in Canada, coming in at minus 375 favorite. Malott's, I think, on a 4 or 5 fight win streak coming into this one. I forget. Hot shot prospect, young lion, getting a chance to crack the rankings.
Yeah, 6-fight win streak coming into this, and only loss was World Series of Fight debut against Hakeem Dawodu in 2014. So weird thing
And I
about
think he was fighting as a featherweight back then.
weird thing about Malott. Exactly what I was going to say.
Child.
Is from 2011 to 2017, he fought featherweight, which is pretty crazy. Then he took 3 years off, got big, probably hit a lot of juice. I'm not even gonna lie. And well, I mean, he was a coach Team Alpha Male, like he has been or was for a long time. And then went up in weight, started his own professional career again at welterweight, and hasn't lost at welterweight coming into this fight. Now, who's he fought? You might ask. Shimon Smatrosky. Okay, no one knows. Mickey Gall. Okay, we're gonna throw that one out too, right? Johan Lioness. Okay, he didn't look very good either.
Can.
Yeah. Jokan Lioness, and then Adam Fugit, who also can. So Malot's been getting the proper can status as we talked about. Now, coming into this fight, Dominic and I talked about proper 12 in a can. My God. That's just what I thought of. We talked about how Neil Magny is that guy that if you're gonna beat him, you gotta be a guy. You gotta be a top 10, legit top 10 guy. Like Neil Magny really doesn't lose to guys outside the top 15. It's been proven throughout his career. He's been in the UFC for so long. Now, question it has to be asked every time at this point: when's that downslide get to the point where he is that guy? When's he Tony Ferguson? Right?
Not yet.
Not yet. And also, I personally, for the number, for minus 385, there was no shot I would ever take that on Malott here because
me neither.
If anything, I thought he would get it done, but I thought the Malott by decision at plus 375 was the juiciest thing I'd seen all week because here was my thinking is to finish Magny, you're almost always the top 5 welterweight. Only the guys that finish him are. Now, that being said, there are guys that beat him that aren't, but they get to be top 10, maybe top 15. That's kind of where I saw him a lot, but I had questions about it. Maybe 20. Maybe he's not a top 15. And so
and that's actually that's funny that you said that. In my power rankings, I had Malott at 21, and I had Magny at 17. So
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And so Malott being closer to 20 and not 12 or 15 is a big difference here, especially in our rankings. So,
especially in welterweight with a division that deep.
This is once again, D-Mac, where we got to kick ourselves in the ass and tell it. And we just got to trust our book here, right? Like you worked hard on these rankings. We got a plus number on a guy that was ranked ahead of another guy.
I know.
We got to take those plus numbers.
I let the outside noise get to me, bro.
Me
to
too.
The point where I didn't even pick it on verdict. Like everybody was just like, my homies, my podcast I listened to, the people I follow on Twitter, I felt like a fucking fool. I was like, but like you're right. Malott, shiny, beautiful record, can crushing, right?
Can crushing, right? Made of aluminum. So, meanwhile, Magny been forged in the fire with steel.
Yeah, the toughest. Like they're the exact opposite. Like Magny, rocky record against elite comp, proper fucking crushing can. So it's just like it's hard to juxtapose that. But my rankings served hold, man. But we'll get to it because rounds 1 and 2, this is looking like Malott minus 375. Wasn't all that competitive. Looked like we were on our way. Ian Gary type of ass whooping on. Maybe not to that extent, but Malott was looking the part through 10 minutes.
Brutalizing Magny's legs, which Magny has proven he just can't check a leg kick. Like that guy needs to go train with Sean Strickland for 3 months on leg defense only. Because if Magny could defend his legs, he could get back in the top 10. I'm not even kidding. But he just gets brutalized by leg kicks and loses fights. Because he has good movement. But guess what, dude? If you can't step on your leg, you can't move. So Malott's doing
and he has like a bad leg chin. You know what I mean?
Terrible.
Like he ate 3 of them and he's limping.
He ate one on the knee at the end of round 2 that made him limp, and I was like, dude, that was on your knee. That wasn't even calf. That is bad. That all being said, sure. Malott was mixing in some nice takedowns, good control, semi-okay ground and pound. Actually, pretty good ground and pound, to be fair.
I think he honestly kind of gassed himself in his round 2 ground and pound. I think he was kind of going for it. He was kind of in no man's land where he was throwing too much to conserve energy, but not just shooting his load fully and really going for the kill. It was kind of worst of both worlds. He didn't fully go for the kill, but he was going at a really high pace, which gassed him. So at the end of it, you have a guy who survived, but spent a lot of energy.
It's almost like putting your gas tank into 9 minutes and getting the finish at 8.5 versus putting your gas tank into 15 and getting the decision. But then being right in that middle at 11, where you didn't push for the 9-minute finish, you didn't hold out for the 15-minute decision, and now you're in this weird no man's of 11, 12 minutes where, you're done. You can't fight anymore.
Yeah, which is what happened, man, around like you said, around the 13-minute mark is when the tide started to turn.
Big time turn. Yeah, it was starting to shift. You could see it because, all of his shots started to get real labored in the third. He was starting to get clipped by Magny shots that he was dodging. Wasn't throwing the leg kicks anymore. He was just trying to survive out there.
And I forget because Magny gets this ground and pound TKO at 4:45 in the third, so just pulled it out. How I forgot how that got to the ground. Did Magny get a takedown? Did Malai? I forget exactly how that got ended up in that position.
Malott, I mean, was just desperation getting pummeled and essentially tried to like go for a leg lock from standing.
That's
Like,
right.
yeah, he like rolled to a knee bar from stand from
That's right. He
standing,
just gave up
and,
the position.
and then just got pieced the fuck out for like a minute 30 after that for doing that.
That's a very good summary. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, man. So Neil Magny, man. I mean, early. I tried to. I mean, put it in the notes or highlight it or whatever. Early candidate for comeback of the year. Early. I mean, we got 11 months, but
100%. Now, the other thing I was going to say here too is even if this goes to decision, that's a 10-8 round. Like this is a draw at worst for Magny, and at best for Malott, in my opinion.
And like also wasn't fluky, right? Like people I feel like are kind of talking about this as if it was like somewhat fluky. Like, I mean, you could argue that Malott did himself no favors, but that still doesn't make it a fluke.
Yes, I agree with you. It's a fluke in the sense of it's not though, because it's just an inexperience from Malott, and it's like, man, that sucks to say you're inexperienced when you're like 32 and you've been fighting professionally for 13 years, but like it is what it is, man. Like it's exactly like we talked about it. It's not knowing to hold out for the decision because you have 1 and 2 in the bag and you just got to skate round 3, or it's not knowing to go hard enough in 2 when you have enough advantage to get him out of there.
Man, I don't know what you do with either of these guys next, man. I'm gonna throw out a couple of names that I think would work for either of these guys. Magny's problem is almost everybody ranked ahead of him, he's beaten. Or fought, not beaten, but fought, and lost to a lot of them. Like almost, I mean, a good chunk of the people ranked above him. So I think, unfortunately, he's gonna have to fight back again. I think you could either give him maybe like a Michael Morales, maybe a Brian Battle, like somebody. Like, I mean, you could argue he's earned a bigger name, but
oh well, why not Vicente Luque? They've never fought. Both kind of older guys.
yeah, I think he's earned that. I think that would be like the nice thing if you want to do something nice for Magny. Like, I think that's like what you do.
I kind of feel like you earn that when you're plus 300 old dog
I agree.
vet and you pull it out of the fire.
I agree. It's just like it just doesn't move my meter. Like it'd be one of those fights like, all right, I'm gonna watch it. I know who these guys are, but I wouldn't necessarily be stoked for it. I think like a Michael Morales, like me personally as a fan, I'd be like a little more intrigue there. Like you get to answer a question. But I don't know, like what question does Luque answer? Like which guys get sent to the scrap heap? Like I don't know.
Which guy's going to gatekeep number 10, essentially, is what that fight is. But it's also two valuable enough names to open up a pay-per-view as like the opening fight. And people will tune in to watch it. Just because it's going to be a good fight. Like both those guys will go for it.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. Yeah, because you're right. The Moraleses of the world, the Brian Battles of the world, that's pretty like low-ranked guys. I have those guys pretty high in my power rankings, but I think public perception, like that would be. Like, I think Mike Malott has a bigger name than both of those, and he just beat Mike Malott. So
right.
Brian Battle, though, I don't know, he got the tough kind of.
I thought the Michael Morales was a good call. I thought that would be a pretty good 170 fight.
I also think both of those names work really well for Mike Malott, too. Malott Battle, sign me up. Malott Morales, I don't think that goes well for Malott, but like, still sign me up. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, Malott Morales makes a lot of sense. Like, let's just go ahead and transfer the shine over to a guy that's a lot better.
Yeah, right? Like, honestly, because Michael Morales is nasty. Bro. Yeah. He's so fast. His hands, he's huge, fast-ass hands.
And, like, way more of a highlight, like, kind of guy. Like, a guy that'll put asses in seats.
Athlete. Plus athlete.
Bro, this card showed me the UFC is desperate for a Canadian star. Fucking desperate.
Yeah, they're trying, and they are not succeeding, man. But, yeah, man, it's a big win for Neil Magny. Kind of holds his place there in the welterweight division. A definition of gatekeeper. He kept the gate. And Malott, he's going to have to go beat a couple prospects. And that doesn't even mean, like, you can end up finding a prospect who's harder fight than Magny. Like we said, the Morales of the world, the Battles of the world, the Bonfils of the world, the fucking. It was a pretty steep drop off after that, but you get the point. Yeah, I mean, there's some. I mean, Nicholas Dalby. I mean, that'd be a tough fight for Malott. Like, just because it's an underrated guy does not mean it's an easier fight than Magny. I guess is the point I'm trying to get across.
Oh, 100%. And the way Malott fights is like, I think stylistically he probably can dominate a few guys, but most guys he's going to have a pretty tough fight with.
For sure, man. And yeah, let's keep it pushing to your favorite guy, the action man, Chris Curtis. No, Harrison hates Chris Curtis so much. Minus 185
what
favorite.
A fucking nickname. Like, what a nickname whenever you do nothing.
Like, is this a trick question here? Like,
it's like abusive.
It's like gaslighting. His nickname is gaslighting.
Right, like you're literally tricking me into thinking that you're fun to watch. It's fucked up.
And then he's the 14th ranked middleweight, 36 years old, taking on the Canadian power bar Marc-Andre Barriault at plus 155 middleweight. As much as I am not like a fan of Chris Curtis's fight style or really his interviews, there's not much I like about him. I think he doesn't really add anything to him and Sean's podcast. Like, just
no, he's overall just kind of there.
I like his story. But as far as me being a UFC fan, like, I'm not about to go buy a Chris Curtis rookie card.
Oh, you mean his story of deleting his Twitter because he can't handle online trolls?
The story of having like fucking 34 fights before you even make it to the UFC or whatever, and then getting ranked, and like
kind of a reason he had to have that many fights, though, right?
No, I feel it. I feel all of it. I'm like not a Curtis. I'm not gonna be a Curtis apologist here. I just don't hate him as much as you.
My thing is, on paper, the story looks so cool and like is a guy you should root for, and then you see it in person, you're like, this guy fucking sucks. Like, get him out.
No, for sure, man. And but like that being said, I did put him on my parlay. I just thought he was a few little notches above Barriault. Like, Barriault is the definition of mid. Like, he doesn't suck, but he's also not elite.
Like your standard 25 to 30. Like, sits 25 to 30, won't fall outside of 35, won't go ahead of 20.
Yeah, let's see, because I haven't updated these rankings yet. Coming in here, that's almost
honestly
exactly
at middleweight, like, power bar might be more like 30 to 35, too.
I have him at 35. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But that's the real vibe of him, man. Like, it's hilarious that we can just kind of think about it and know where these guys sit. But it's like Chris Curtis, definitely, I would say, from that 20 up range. Maybe not top 15, but definitely that 20 up.
24, but middleweight's so deep, bro. Like, you got Joe Piper, you got Anthony Hernandez, you got Michelle Pereira. I'm super high on. Caio Borralho, Kopylov, which Kopylov's actually filling in for Ikram. He's going to take on Hernandez.
That's a good fight.
You know I'm high on Kopylov. That's his chance to kind of get over. That's the opportunity.
I kind of like Hernandez in that fight. Just styles right there.
Striker
already.
Versus grappler for sure. So, I mean, Ikram, middleweight's so deep. So I'm just saying, I definitely never. I have Chris Curtis like 10 spots below his actual ranking in my power ranking, which is wild. I have him at 24. UFC has him at 4.
Let me ask you this: Was this matchup a combination of Canadian desperation for Canadians on a Canadian card? With a mix of Sean Strickland's going to be the guy that headlines this card.
Yeah.
Chris Curtis' teammate will fly out the coaches and save money on Curtis getting a fight.
Yeah, they do the same thing with the city kickboxing guys. It's a thing. They used to have Sean and I think Francis on a lot of the same cards. Like, now, it's a thing.
Only reason I asked that question like that is because to make the point of Barriault doesn't really deserve this fight. Like, there's plenty of other middleweights that should have got this fight. He was just the desperation. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, plenty of guys. But this is just the desperation Canadian for the card.
Agreed. 1,000% agree. They wanted another Canadian on the main card. Now, that being said, round one was close. Yeah, I mean, we got kind of go round by round here.
Is it though? You know what I mean? Like, I thought, honestly, I didn't think the rounds. I mean, they're you could say close. They're not Strickland Duplessis close. Like I actually scored all three for Curtis.
29-28 Barrios, but round one being a coin flip. I thought Barrios, and that's crazy because I thought, Barrios straight up won round three, and I thought round one was a coin flip. And round two was honestly, I had it being very close. I had Chris Curtis edging out the snooze fest, only basically because he cut Barrios. So that's why I thought we had to go round by round. But I mean, I understand. We honestly don't have to spend the time on it. Curtis does get the split decision. And my scorecard is represented by a judge, so it's not completely gay.
It's not, though, because that judge scored round one to Curtis and 2 and 3 to Barrios.
I see how you get there. I had round 1 and 2 as basically coin flips. And round 2 was so snoozy. It was like a Sparza Rose, like, you got to pick a winner. This round sucked. Here you go, Curtis, I guess. Like, he cut him. I'm definitely not dying on any hills here. I think your 30-27 is a little wild. I think Barrios won 3 straight up. Did any judge give Barrios 3 or no?
Yeah. Derek Cleary gave him 3. What I think is weird, though, about it is that, like, I almost got tricked by Chris Curtis in hindsight of, like, he kept acting like Barrios wasn't doing anything, and it was giving me the sense that, like, that Barrios was being overly inactive because I'm used to him being so active, and now in hindsight I'm like, it's the Chris Curtis effect. Like, he makes every fight boring.
Yes, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Like, dude, fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And Barrios usually is in exciting fights. Like, I'm actually somewhat of a Barrios fan. Like, he's giving us some bangers over there.
No, like, I
fights he lose.
Usually I see power bar, and I'm like, okay, it'll be at least an entertaining, good to watch fight.
Yep, 1,000%, man. So Curtis gets a split decision, man. I mean, if it's either a split decision or a no contest, Chris Curtis fights, you're right. They just always suck. They never answer a question. He has this 14 next to his name. Like I said, I have him as the 24th best middleweight. He has this 14 next to his name. He keeps clinging onto it, which, like I said, the only reason that's a good thing, because one of these guys, whether it be the Kopylovs of the world, the Ruzboyevs of the world, the Kyle Baralios of the world, like, one of these guys is going to get a chance to snatch that ranking from him. So that's the only reason why I'm glad is that he has that ranking, is because one of these guys is going to be able to take it from him.
100%, man. And if you look at Chris Curtis's fight history, in 2021, he had wins over Brendan Allen and Phil Hawes, both of them TKOs. Great start, man. Like, honestly, started his career on fire. Since then, he's only had the one finish of Buckley, and he's, after this fight, 3-2-1 with the no contest against Imavov, where he got eye poked, but he was getting beat in that fight, too.
No, for sure, man. There was that bullshit Hermanson fight, right? Wasn't that one of, like, the worst fights ever?
Yeah.
Like, I remember us bitching about it on the pod. That fight's like, so yeah, Chris Curtis just, he's like, him and Raquel Pennington on the same main card is like torture. Like, that's brutal.
Yeah,
Chris Curtis and Raquel Pennington, like if I made a snooze fest ranking, like a power ranking of snooze fest fighters, I shit you not, like, no hyperbole, no recency bias. Even before last night, they would probably be in my top 5 of, like, top 5 snooziest fighters, regardless of gender.
100%. But, man, honestly, I don't even care to keep talking about these guys, only because we went pretty in-depth on middleweight earlier, so for the division's sake, kind of got it addressed, and these guys are mostly irrelevant. So let's keep it pushing here. We got the probably, in my opinion, second best fight on the card as far as name value, matchup, and honestly, the fight I thought delivered pretty well. You have Arnold Allen taking on Movsar Evloev. Let's see. Arnold Allen's number 4 plus 155. Movsar Evloev is number, 9 minus 185 here?
Yeah, he was number 9. I had him as 5 in my power rankings, though. I've been high on Evloev for a long time.
Yeah, power rankings, I think he's top 5. Now, I think I have Arnold Allen at 6 and Evloev at 5 in my power rankings here.
Me too. Literally me too. Which is why it was a no bet for me.
The number is exactly 5 versus 6. It makes sense. So Vegas sees it the same way as us. Not going to bet it. No value.
Agreed. Rounds 1 and 2, I think clearly for Evloev, right? I mean, it looked like an Evloev fight. He was able to get the takedown.
Forcing the wrestling. Control. That was the biggest part of it. There wasn't the most damage by any means.
I'll say I'll say this: the Khabib comparisons get thrown around a lot with every Russian fighter. His like movement, like I think he actually kind of fights like Khabib. Like
Very
people kind
much
of
so.
generalize every Dagestani, and he's not even Dagestani. He's from like some other part of Russia, but like he literally fights like Khabib from how he holds his hands to how he the steps that he takes, the
Even the
kind of like
way, like I'm looking at his fighter picture right now, he like stands like Habib
his
with
like
like
posture.
yeah, like kind of the forward slump shoulders with
Yeah,
like the swole out back and like the legs that are slightly bent.
like literally, like as I was watching, because I never really made that connection, especially because Masvar is not Dagestani, but I was like, this is very Khabib esque here. Just like yeah, the forcing of it. Yeah, I agree, man. And then, but that being said, it wasn't all wrestling. In round two is whenever he cut and hurt Allen with the punch. Then
Yep.
it proceeded to get the takedown, but he let the hands go a little bit.
Well, and that was a nice shot he landed too, because that's when Allen stumbled and Evloev just cracked him with a right whenever he's standing back up. I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good strike, like to land that on the guy that's moving upwards.
Well, and I remember the first time I watched Evloev fight on like some Apex prelim in the COVID days. Like, I was like, this guy can do everything. Like,
Oh yeah,
even
we
like,
watched him. We watched him like hot knife through butter someone. And we were like, oh, this guy's a guy.
yeah, he passes the eye test from the very first time I watched him fight. We've been ball washing him, shoveling coal. I mean, since like 2020, since the very
Well,
start of the Beefy Boys era, we've
and
been
like you were
we
alluding to, man, like his wrestling style is the most like Habib's than anyone else we've ever seen, because he gets on you and then he just kind of muscles his way slowly into these positions where he's just on top and just in control. It's not crazy damage he's ever putting down, but if you make small mistakes, he slowly advances and creates more and more of a disparity between where he's at and where you are.
and like I don't know if I've ever seen him make a like bad decision, like a bad fight IQ decision, like ever. Like I'm probably going on of like
He doesn't
how
take a
many
lot of
rounds is this
risks.
like?
I mean, how many risks does he take? He never puts himself in a position to have to like make a drastic decision.
Like I think we've watched like 18 or 21 rounds of Evloev fights at this point, and I've just yet to see him like lose a position, lose a round. Like, or no, I guess we saw him lose some rounds of the positions to Diego Lopez. But even that, man, nobody else had survived in those Diego Lopez subs. Like that was Volkanovski-esque, how he survived those Diego Lopez subs. That I mean, that fight was the fight that made us fall in love with Diego Lopez.
Yeah, and he has the one split. All of his wins, by the way, we need to remember this, man. For
They're
for
all
Evloev,
overlocked.
every single one's a decision. Every win is a decision in the UFC. Now, before the UFC, a lot of finishes. Not one finish in the UFC. Now, also, just to point out, his split decision win is over Nick Lentz. That's a pretty tough one if you look back at it. But I'm pretty sure that's the one where Evloev had a terrible weight cut and he was like really sick going into it. If I do recall.
Yeah, for sure. And like things are going to happen. But he's 17-0, man. Like I heard this suggestion. This isn't my idea, but it makes all the sense in the world. I believe Yair and Ortega are fighting, and they're saying give him the winner of that, which makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah,
that makes all the sense.
That checks out for me. Or I mean, if Holloway and Gaethje happens and Evloev wants to sit out for Ramadan, I don't know what that looks like for him. But if that's the case and he's going to sit out till end of summer, then maybe Holloway is a good matchup for him at that point.
Yeah, you could do it. You could do it.
Now that being said, there is something we got to talk about here in round 3 where I thought Allen won round 3. And then also the rules are different in Canada. They don't have the new unified rules, which is a super. You sent that article to me, and I was like, "Oh wow!" So those knees, like, technically were not illegal.
No, they technically were illegal.
Oh, technically were. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Because so there was a point in round 3 where Mavsar was doing the Aljo special where he was trying to do the one hand on the ground, you can't knee me thing. And his fingertips were basically like barely scraping the ground. Arnold Allen knees him in the head, cuts him. Granted, Evloev's a dog. He didn't pull an Aljo and he didn't try to earn an Oscar. And then the ref, I thought the ref marked because he did stop the fight. He did call in the doctor. He didn't deduct the point because of the weird Canadian rules. because in the U.S. and basically every other jurisdiction, you have to have weight bearing. They changed the rule to try to help avoid these scenarios. That you have to have weight bearing on the hand, and you can't just scrape your fingertips and be considered down. It does make it slightly harder to play the quote unquote game. In Canada, they have not updated that rule set. I think it's the same rule they had since 2003 or something. I saw.
Yeah, it's something
And
ridiculous.
technically an illegal knee, no point deduction. I'm kind of fine with everything because I wasn't a fan of Mostar trying to play the game. It wasn't a fight-ending blow. Warning, no point deduction, no DQ, no contest. Like I think that like ended kind of best case scenario if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, it's a play stupid games, win stupid prizes kind of a result there. I think if you're Movsar, like, if you're going to try to play that game, you're probably going to get kneed in your head at least once. And whether that's the first one that's illegal, or that one's legal and the second one's illegal, or whatever it is, you're going to get kneed in the head, and that's going to suck. So maybe just give him your back for a second, roll to your back, give him the takedown. You've already lost the position. So don't try to technicality your way out of it. That's just frustrating.
Shoot a takedown yourself. Fucking do an Imanari roll. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, they
don't technicality your way out. Like, don't try to play the rules. Like, fight the fight.
It's flopping in a way. It's kind of like flopping, like MMA's equivalent of flopping.
It feels just it's like faking a position essentially.
No, for sure, man. Either way, I mean, Mobstar. I mean, it's a high level win. He just beat number 4 in the world. I mean, he could, if he really wanted to be a Colby Covington about it, he could probably just hang out. I mean, if we're being honest, like Holloway's fighting Gagey. Like I said, Yair's fighting Ortega. I don't think the UFC's in a super big hurry to get either one of those guys another title fight. He could probably. I mean, you always run the risk of if Topuria beats Volk, they're definitely going to run that back. But if Volk beats Topuria, he's going to need somebody with a pulse that can fog a mirror.
Well, what if Aljo beats Cater?
If Aljo beats Cater, I say you do Aljo Evloev, and that's what I'm saying. Fight.
Yeah, Aljo Evloev. That's what I'm saying.
And they can just fucking start the fight in like a 3-point stance, like.
No, they'll start the fight with Aljo like halfway down and Evloev about to knee him, and we'll see who. No, they'll both start down, and we'll see who knees who first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're doing a 3-point stance, like a little league football. You know, like the little league linemen don't put hardly any weight on their
hand down.
Like
they're like their butts down. They're looking up at each other.
That's how they're going to start the fight. Like how a bare knuckle, they make them knuckle, make them start the fight in a fucking third graders 3-point stance. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this is great for featherweight, man. I mean, featherweight was Volk and Holloway for so long. The Ortegas, the Yairs, the Josh Emmets of the world, for almost the entire Beefy Boy era, that's been the top 5 of featherweight in some order or another. But now we got Topuria cracking in. Mobstar just beat 4, which I never really thought. Arnold Allen's just not that guy. Arnold Allen's one of those guys. He'll spend his whole career in the top 10. But I don't think he'll ever win a belt like one of those guys.
He is one of those guys. He's
like
elite,
very
but
good.
not top tier.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this was perfect because Evloev is very well. He's a championship quality. He can fight anywhere. I mean, he has high fight IQ, infinite cardio too. Like infinite cardio,
and like his wrestling is so. He's such a what is the word for it? He's so adept at grappling. Like he's so much better at grappling. Technician. He's such a skilled technician in grappling that like his grappling is better than most other guys. So even if the other guy's striking is better, he's gonna nullify some of it with the grappling, almost like Khabib did. Like his style is so similar to Khabib. It's crazy about just dominance in control and grappling, so much so that it makes your striking difficult to get to.
It's crazy, bro. Featherweight's probably the most striking heavy division. I mean, because you got Ortega, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy. You got Diego Lopez, a jiu-jitsu guy. You got Bryson Mitchell, a jiu-jitsu guy. You got everybody else is strikers till you get down to like Jonathan Pierce has got some wrestling. I mean, Darren Elkins way down there. It's such a striking heavy division. Like He's a nightmare for
I,
every
I
single
think it's a
featherweight.
striking heavy division because it's forced to be that way only because most of these guys can defend regular takedowns. Like a lot of these guys can wrestle with each other on the level they're all at. Evalev's at like next level wrestler, so he's able to cut through their wrestling defenses, which means that they can't strike.
But yeah, I feel like lightweight has a couple of those guys.
Oh,
Like
100%.
featherweight just doesn't have a lot of wrestlers. So
Welterweight
I
has
mean,
a couple of those
Evloev,
guys too. I mean, like that's what Sean Brady tries to be. That's obviously
yeah,
that's who RDA has been at 55 for forever.
Bilal, Shavkat. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of more MMA wrestling, but yeah, no, man. But I mean, honestly, the main card left a lot to be desired from an entertainment value. I do think a lot happened to like move these divisions forward. Like I said, we just talked about how important of a fight that was a featherweight. I mean, reshuffling the deck. I mean, Neil Magny, that had the potential to shake up a welterweight, but I mean, the fact that Neil Magny's still where he is, like that is impactful to that division. Obviously, the vacant bantamweight belt, as much as that fight sucked, at least that division has like a champion and somewhere to go from here, whether that be Shevchenko coming up or Pena, or at least like, it kind of gets the wheels moving in that division. So yeah, like I said, not a very entertaining main card, but like a consequential main card. You can argue a controversial main card. We got a new middleweight champ. Tells me, I think this middleweight belt's gonna play hot potato, man. I mean, whether Izzy gets it back or Hamzat or I mean Brandon Allen's on a streak, the young bloods, the Ikrams of the world. I mean, I just middleweight belt I think is about to play hot potato. I wouldn't shock me at all if Sean Strickland won it back one of these days. Like in the next 18 to 24 months, if Sean becomes a two-time champ, like I wouldn't be shocked.
No, it's actually nice to have that level of parity now at 85 because we had the Israel Adesanya reign for 3 years where no one could defeat him or get through that guard, and then finally Strickland breaks it, and it seems like we might be able to have a quick little revolving door between 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, people kind of talk down on that. I'm with you. I kind of like that. Like
It's more
everybody
fun.
talks light heavyweight. Like we've had the Jamal Hill. You have these moments, right? You have the Jamal Hill, the Yuri, like these moments of guys winning the belt. I love watching that. And like when the belt's moving around, you get that more often. Like
Well, bro,
whenever
it's like any NFL fan would say, nothing's worse than when the Patriots are winning the Super Bowl and going every year.
every year, like this year, like tonight, I was rooting for the Bills, and when my wife asked me why, I was like, yeah, the Chiefs are in it every year. Like Josh
Yeah,
Allen,
you
like
just
yeah,
get tired of seeing the same guy get the same success.
no, I feel it. I feel it. Now as a Niners fan, I don't feel it, but
And a guy
I
that grew
understand
up a
the sentiment.
Patriots fan.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. If you're
You essentially
like a
swapped
Raider fan or
strongholds. Like you went
something,
from dynasty to dynasty. Congrats.
let's go. I'm like a chick that goes from one rich guy to a different rich guy.
Yeah. Yeah, which
but
also hilariously, shout out Jeff Bezos' ex-wife who married some school teacher, and then like 9 months later is like, I need a divorce from this guy. Yeah, we get it.
hey, that guy. Hey, you can unfollow me, but you can't unswallow me.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll wrap it up for the main card. We'll keep it pushing. Probably get you guys a just overall prelim since it was 7 total fights between early and pre's. Don't forget to check that out. Like and subscribe. Comment. Honestly, I think question
Your
of
winner
yeah.
of the main event.
Yeah, I was just about to say question of the day is who won the main event. And then also my final parting note is this main card would have been in the bottom 3 pay-per-views of all of last year. So it sucks that we had to start the year with this one.
Yeah, wasn't not a great pay-per-view main card. Shout out to all the marks out there that bought it like we did. But yeah, man, we'll be back with these prelims. Every fight, every single card. That's what you come into the Beefy Boys breakdown for.